is at ChristStudyInstitute.com.
Okay, guys, I'm on. I want to see if we can. I don't know if anyone's with me here. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm well. Patricia?
Yes.
All right, cool. Now I don't see your video, so hopefully you do.
Yeah, I do see you. Let me start mine.
Let me get my screen share going here too. There you are.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Perfect. So I think we should be good. I just need to get my screen share up and then you make me the host and I think we should be good, yeah?
We should, yeah.
All right, so let me get my PowerPoint going. Okay. So that is going. I think it's up to you to make me the host.
All right, let's see. Alrighty, just it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's see here. View options. I'm viewing Keller Williams' screen. Let me go ahead and share screen. This will stop others' screen sharing. Yes, we want to continue. Okay. What do you have on your screen right now?
Credit advisor, credit basics, establish, maintain, and
Cool.
control your credit.
And then you see me as a little box, yeah?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. So I can see you as well. So I'll just make sure I announce to everybody to share. What I'm going to probably have them do is mute themselves out.
Yeah.
And then be sure they're sharing video so we can have visual confirmation that everyone's there.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense. I think we're good.
Fantastic.
How's the audio on your end?
Really good.
Is it? Good. Okay. Well, awesome. This is going to be exciting.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to pause it and then we'll get started sharply at 1, yeah?
Yes, at 1. Yep.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Welcome, everyone. This is David MG. We're going to give it another couple of minutes to get started. And then just be sure that everyone's got their video on so that way we can increase the likelihood of being able to authorize continuing education credits. But we do need to be able to verify that everybody is in attendance. We'll give it about another 2-3 minutes. I do want to get started pretty much right at 1. Be respectful of everyone's time.
See, and where you gonna put it at? I know, I look.
Okay, welcome. Can everybody hear me? Let me
Yes.
unmute. Everybody can hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone's got video. Everyone can see the screen.
Yes.
Awesome.
Can you see me, Laura?
I can see. It looks like I can see everyone. So I think we're good. I think we'll have a couple of people hopefully log in as we go. And I'll tell you what, Patricia, if you can help me, I don't know if you have can see questions or any of that on your end there. But if you can, definitely try to help out and get people let me know if there's questions coming up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Sweet. Okay, guys. So thank you, number one, for bearing with us through this. Everyone's kind of trying to adapt to life, and I, for one, love the challenge. But I do want to lay down kind of how this is going to go here. We are trying to get an approval to get everybody their continuing education credits. So, I can't guarantee that it's gonna pass, but we're gonna do everything we can. All right. So with that in mind, the way that we're gonna work this is I'm gonna mute everyone out during the presentation. Normally, I like to get some questions up front, and we'll probably still do that. And then we'll break midway through for a couple minutes. Everyone can go get some water, and then power through the remainder of this. But in my experience doing webinars and virtual presentations, always a good idea to have them used because you never know. Dog barks in the background, fire engine goes by, you never can tell. Okay. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do right now, starting out, is ask y'all, because here's the deal. You're taking some time out of your day to log on to a webinar, which that very word is you don't say the word webinar, right? Because no one shows up. It's boring. I'm going to do everything I can to keep this entertaining and to get you as much information as I possibly can. But the fact remains, you're all here. You all logged in. All right. So before I mute everyone out, I'd like to get an idea. What questions do you have pertaining to credit? Right? What brought you here in the first place? What are you hoping I'm going to answer going through this class? And I'll open it up to you. What questions do you have?
I have a question.
Yes.
How do I, stabilize credit or, make sure that it's going upward?
How do you make sure it's basically maintenance, right? So
Yes.
Not necessarily establish, but how do you keep it going up? And you probably run into this a lot of times with clients who are about ready to pull their hair out that are like, I've been trying to get my credit score to go up for the last 2 years and it's just stagnant, right? It's not moving anywhere. Is that kind of right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. We'll get into that very thing actually in quite a bit of detail because we have an entire section all about how credit scores are calculated. And one of the big things is understanding the math that goes behind that. So that's an awesome question. Stay tuned. Okay. Any others?
What's the quickest way to improve your credit score?
That's the big one, right? Especially in today's generation where you've got so many young borrowers, right? Millennials that are like, hey, how do I establish credit? One of the biggest questions I get asked is, how do I get some if I don't have any, right? Because everyone's going to deny you. And so we need fast ways to establish credit. And then going to that second point, how do we keep it moving upward from there? Yeah. I'm going to give you guys a couple of bullet points on ways that you can establish credit extremely fast. Some in as little as 5 minutes. Okay. Others take a couple weeks, 30 days, 45 days. Here's the thing that's true for everyone. Within a couple of months, definitely 6 months, they should be able to see themselves with outstanding credit scores if they're starting from zero. Okay, so good question. What else? Any others out there? Anything else in your minds? No? All right. We're going to jump in. Like I mentioned, I'm going to mute it out for the time being, and then we'll unmute it when we open it up for some Q&A, okay? Oh, last tip, make sure your cameras are on. That way we can verify attendance. All right, so here we go. Okay, guys, give me a quick thumbs up if you can still hear me. Let's make sure I didn't mute myself out. Okay, perfect. So before we get into this, a little about myself. My name is David. You're probably looking at your screen thinking, what is that last name, right? Like, I've heard it all, guys. It's a 4-letter word. I get it. It's Mgay. I've heard everything, okay? So to give you something that'll hopefully be a seed that sticks, it is pronounced MG, just like the letters, all right? So what I always say is that it's MG, you know, like mighty good, right? Unless you're talking to somebody who we're trying to get into a VA loan, and then it's going to be machine gun, all right? So hopefully one of those two will be the seed that sticks. My name is David MG, and I'll be your host, instructor for today. I am the co-founder of Credit Advisor. We are a full-service credit management and repair firm, and we specialize, probably about 90% of what we do is real estate, okay? Helping clients understand their credit scores, giving coaching on how to improve those scores quickly so that way they can get approved for a home with interest rates the way they are, refi, right? Really a whole slew of things, okay? Now, getting into this, credit is a big topic, you know, and there's a lot that we can go over. So today's agenda, if my clicker's working, is going to be, we're going to go over all this stuff today, okay? Starting with credit industries. Which industries use credit for reporting? There's actually a lot of misconceptions that are out there about credit, right? And I'm sure you guys hear it all the time. We do this class for real estate agents because, man, you guys are doing the open houses, right? You're out there kissing babies and shaking hands when the world isn't on quarantine, right? And you're meeting all the people that your lender and I never even come to contact with. Here's the question that I like to ask when I'm doing this live. I'll get a show of hands, right? How many people, and think to yourself, how many people think that they've lost a deal due to credit score? And give me a thumbs up if you think you have. How many people think they could have gotten a better deal for their client if that client's credit score was just a few points higher? There we go. There's a couple. Here's the big one. How many people feel like, you know what? Never even made it that far. Couldn't get the client to get their credit pulled, right? Because they knew that they had credit problems. Ever run into that?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Thumbs up. There we go. All right. That's why we're doing this class for you guys. The number one thing that I want to do is empower you with knowledge that you can relay to your clients and help them today. Not tomorrow, not a year from now, not 5 years from now. What can they do today to start positively impacting that credit score? What we found is it makes you guys a hero. They remember you. Even if they don't end up buying a house, guess who they're talking about as the best realtor that they've ever met because you actually cared, right? And you actually helped them improve their situation. That's the goal. So part of it starts out by understanding which industries report to credit. I have so many people that are like, Dave, I pay my cell phone bill on time. That's cool. Does it help? We'll talk about that. We'll get into a history of credit. Where did it come from? I mean, all this has been around for thousands of years, right? But credit as we know it today originated, you know, within a recent history. We'll get into why it came about and then the development of credit reporting as we know it, okay? One of my favorite topics, guys, is how scores are calculated. Credit scores are mathematical. And once you understand the math, then you're empowered to raise that score pretty much at will. Okay. And if you're not, you'll understand why your score isn't going up. Okay. We are going to get into how to establish and maintain credit. One of the big things right now, and that's again where you can give quick tips to your clients. Here's one that's super interesting. How to remove derogatory trade lines. Okay, now this is a well-kept secret. A lot of people hop online to Credit Karma, or they hop online to the website, and they'll just dispute things. And then again, they're ready to pull their hair out a couple months later because things aren't getting removed. Even when the client knows, like I talked to someone earlier today that has the receipt, they paid the collection, but it's still on the credit report with a $153 balance, and now it's with a new collection agency. How's that happen? Is that justified? Is it legal? We'll get into that, and then how to get that item removed off the credit report, okay? I want to give you 4 tips that you can give to your clients again today to start making positive impact, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A, all right? So jumping right in. Industries that use credit for reporting. A lot of these guys are going to make a lot of sense, okay? You got mortgages, auto loans. Well, so far those make sense. Auto loans to an extent, right? Because auto loans, when you go to like a big dealership, they're going to pull your credit and you're either going to get approved or declined. But I'll tell you this, when we first started this business, we were doing our fact finding out, where's the best market, right? And auto loans, I've talked to a couple of finance managers. I'm like, how low can you go? Like, for real, what's the lowest you can go on score? He's like, I can do a deal at 450. 450 credit score and get approved for a car. That's insane to me because that person's going to be paying what? In interest rates.
High interest.
High interest rates. Here's the other ticket, right? Let's say you don't get approved. You're at the dealership, you apply, and they're like, no go. Can your mom co-sign on this with you? Or no, mom, no. Sorry, no deal. Okay, what are your alternatives then? Has anyone ever heard of a buy here, pay here lot?
Mm-hmm.
Right, man. If you don't want to, basically this, if you don't want to take your tax return, and buy a jalopy that's got a bunch of mechanical issues, and welcome to my early 20s, right? Because that's what I would do. I would go onto Craigslist okay, I'm dating myself, but back in the day, right, I opened the newspaper, right? And I found an inexpensive car. I bought it because I didn't have any credit. And I had to pay all my cash, right? That was what I saved. I saved that money up. I buy the car, breaks down the next week, and then breaks down the week after that. It's very, very expensive to play that game. I call it car wars, right? Because you're always doing repairs. So if you want to get out of that, you don't have any credit, you go to a buy here, pay here lot. Has anyone ever seen an interest rate on a buy here, pay here? They're like 27%. It's astronomical, okay? So, and here's the other thing. That kind of loan, if you go to a buy here, pay here lot, they don't report to credit. They'll only report if you don't pay, right? So it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you build credit. It's an expensive loan, but what else are you going to do? Okay, so what I wrote down here, industries, that's an auto loan that actually reports to credit. That's a big dealership. You're going through a bank, right? Something like that, okay? Mortgages, auto loans, so far makes sense. Credit cards, makes sense, right? I mean, a lot of people are getting declined for credit cards because guess what? They're checking your credit. Also, they report to credit every month you have that card. Most of them. Some of them only report to 2 or 3 bureaus, or 1 or 2 bureaus. Some don't report to all 3, and we'll get into that here in a second, okay? But for the most part, credit cards make sense. Installment loans, especially now, guys. There are a lot of installment loans. Let's say your credit card's maxed out. You're gonna take out a loan. You're gonna do a home improvement. You take out a loan. They're gonna check your credit. Makes sense. Bank wants to make sure they're getting paid back, right? Check out the next one though. Insurance. Insurance, really? I get a lot of people that are like, seriously, insurance? And you know what, truth be told, I've done this for a long time and I still don't have like a solid answer. I mean, I know why they use credit. I know why they check it, but come on, really. Well, it looks like you have poor credit, Mr. Johnson. So you must be higher risk for, running over little old ladies in the parking lot. But hold on, that's a leap, right? So that's not it, but they do want to make sure that you don't have any temptation to do insurance fraud, Okay, and that's why they're checking your credit score, see if you're just plagued with a bunch of debt. So here's the deal. Throughout this class, I'm going to sprinkle in some motivation for you. Part of credit is understanding who is motivated, who's incented off of your credit score. Insurance is one good example. Okay, insurance agents and present company obviously excluded. This isn't malicious. It's not like insurance agents are out to get people or anything like that, but it's just true. An insurance agent makes their money based off of commission.
Commission.
Exactly. Commission is calculated on the amount of the premium.
Mhm.
Premium gets more expensive the lower your credit score goes, and insurance agent makes more money. So we have referral partners, right, that are insurance agents, just the same, right? Because for the most part, they're interested in long-term relationships with their clients. So if they can help them improve credit, awesome. They're going to stick with that policy a lot longer. My point is only this. If you want to know why something is the way that it is, follow the money. Who stands to profit off of a credit score at all different levels, whether it's excellent, whether it's poor. Obviously, buy here, pay here a lot is banking on that bad credit or no credit, okay? Here's the big one. Employment. 7 out of 10 employers are pulling credit before they make a job offer. Again, they're not checking the score. They don't care about the score. They're looking at it as a judgment of character, right? Especially if you're applying for anything having to do with financial responsibility. If you're going to, apply to be a bank teller, they're going to pull your credit. Okay. If you're going for a managerial role, they're likely going to check your credit. And again, they're looking to see what is the temptation that this person is going to skim off the top, right? So that's why they're checking credit. They don't care about the score. They care about the items that are on the report. And there's a big thing. We got to decide, we got to separate this. What is a score versus what are the items on the report? Okay. And we'll get into the players of the game. But they're, in this case, employers are looking at the items on the report. They don't give two hoots about a score. Okay. So here's the deal. You start kind of like looking at all the pieces and you're like, wow. And why you guys are here is you want to know how credit scores are calculated and what you can do to increase them, as does 90% of the population. Because ultimately, if your score is in the toilet, as I call it, or you don't have a score and you don't know how to establish it, now you can't get a job, right? Can't get a job that pays you any decent amount. You're having to go to buy here, pay here a lot, or drop all your savings on a car. If you can qualify for a credit card, then you're paying a lot of interest rates there. If you can't qualify for a credit card, then what do you do if all of a sudden you're mandated to work from home and you don't have cash? A lot of people are using their credit cards as a short-term loan to get past this, right? That's not an option for you if you don't have the credit side. So you start to kind of add up all the pieces and you realize, man, it is expensive. There's a lot of money associated with that little credit score. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unmute it. I want to hear you guys' voices. I want to know that you're actually out there, right? This is my favorite question to ask. What is, to you, what's credit? And let me see how, hold on. Let me get my unmute all. Unmute all. You're all unmuted. I like to get an idea. If you have a 5-year-old child at home and they ask you, Mom, Dad, what's credit? How do you explain it to them? What's your answer?
My answer, this is Angela. My answer is based off of it is the willingness and rate that someone will lend to you based off of your previous history or lack thereof.
Cool. You've got a smart 5-year-old at home. Who else? That's a great way of explaining it. Who's got another thought? How do you think about credit? What is it?
This is Rich.
Hey, Rich.
Sorry. There.
Yeah. Check. All right.
You hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect.
I turned my sound off.
Oh, okay. Rick, you there?
Don't leave. I see Rich.
Down here.
Yeah,
All right.
because Rich and Jan are so close, they
I'm gonna
might
turn
get
my sound down.
feedback.
Feedback loop. Hey,
You're
we
on.
had to try. We had to try, right?
I can
So here's the deal, guys. I'm going to go ahead and back to muting it. We had a good answer there. Credit is based on your previous behavior. What's the likelihood that somebody's going to loan to you, right? Great way of explaining it there. I had one lady one time, I'm doing the class, right? And she's like, it's your life on paper. It's like, okay, a little ominous, right? But I see where she's going with that, right? Because true, nobody knows anything about you. They don't, know you from Jack, or Jill. And so they basically, if a bank is going to give you money, or anybody's going to give you money, they want to be sure that they're going to get paid back, right? And so that's what's kind of like. It's kind of like an adult report card, right? What's your grade? What's your score? Here's the very easiest way to explain what credit is. It is a way of paying for lumpy purchases. That's it. Question is, what's a lumpy purchase, right? A lumpy purchase is something that you don't buy every day. It's, normal everyday expenses, boom, lumpy purchase, right? Socks, guys, are not a lumpy purchase. You can pretty much, include that in your everyday expenses. A house, though, on the other hand, that's a lumpy purchase. How often do people buy homes? And that's where credit reporting as we know it began within the United States. Now, granted, it's been around for thousands of years, right? Ancient Egyptians had a credit, okay? But as we know it, it started because ultimately people wanted to be able to buy a house. The alternative is, okay, let's say you're a tenant farmer. You live at the farm, you work at the farm, and you get to stay there, but you don't own it, right? Your only shot at becoming the owner is you've got to save up over time, over 30, 40, 50 years, right? You got to pinch your pennies, and then one day you'll save up enough to be able to buy the farm, right? It's a layaway program pretty much, okay? So ultimately, what credit does is it changes the timing. Rather than having to save up over 50 years and then now you buy it, what it does is it shifts the timing and says, okay, let's go ahead and you can buy the house today. And you're the owner, technically, right? A bank's the owner, technically, and then you make your payments on it over time. So it just changes that timing. And it worked, guys, so well that people started selling more houses, markets popping, like things are going well, a lot more homeowners. Works so well, you'll see the picture at the bottom here. That's an old car, right? Old car. Works so well that the auto industry was like, hey, let's start selling cars on credit, right? Because it's a lumpy purchase. Man, people can't, unless you have a lot of cash, unless you're one of the rich, you can't afford to buy the car. So sell cars on credit, start selling more cars. Worked so well that you got another picture on the screen. Any guesses as to what that is?
Okay, Dave, we don't really see your screen.
Oh, you don't see the screen.
No, your slideshow is still at the beginning.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
Oh, man. Let's see. How about now?
yes, thank you.
What is credit? Oh my gosh, guys, you're all so patient. How about this? You see that screen?
Yes, we do.
See the house,
Perfect.
you see the car.
Yep, the car.
Oh, so much better when there's visuals. Yes, okay. See that? You see the thing in the upper right. Any guesses?
Looks like an old washing machine.
Yeah,
Bingo. Old washing machine. That's it. Works so well with the real estate industry, with cars, right? That ultimately appliances, home appliances, because that's a lumpy purchase. Your washing machine goes out. What do? They start selling it on credit, right? Again, worked really, really well for these lumpy purchases. It's just that what happened is that the lumps got smaller and smaller, right? Real estate, car, now we're into appliances, right? And here's the deal, guys, You can still see my screen, yeah? You see success? Success. That's what happens when the economy is popping, when they're able to sell more. You see that lumpy purchases inherently become more available to the broad public, and so companies sell more. They make more money. For the most part, what does a company do when it makes more money? I mean, aside from like line their pockets a little bit, right? Maybe take some bonuses. For the most part, they're going to reinvest a lot of that money back into innovation, back into the company. I mean, you got to figure, you know, if you're looking at the pictures here, people aren't just buying the little shack of a homestead anymore. Now you can buy a house, you know, $1 million home. We're not driving a Ford Model T anymore. Now we got computers in the car. And that middle one right there is a smart washer. I still don't know what that means, okay? But it's got to be good because it's got a computer in it, and I know it's a heck of a lot more expensive than some wooden barrel that you have to turn, you know, the wheel on, okay? And that's the deal. Things get more expensive. Cars now can go for as much as a house, but because of credit, it allows more people to make that purchase. Think about it like this. It worked so well that somebody had the brilliant idea to say, hey, how about we start selling socks, right? Let's sell not lumpy purchases. The lumps get smaller and smaller, and now you can buy a pack of gum on credit, right? Because of credit cards. Pop quiz for anybody who is unmuted here. Any idea on who one of the first credit card companies was? Guesses? No? I hear a lot of times Wells Fargo, they've been around, yeah.
Chase.
So who was that? What was that?
Chase.
Chase, good one, big bank, right? I'll give you a hint. One of the bureaus. Equifax. Equifax was actually one of the first credit card companies back in 1899. Just to give you an idea on their motivation level for wanting information on people, because they were giving out money, okay? So here's the thing. Now it's possible to buy anything on credit, and you know, if you know anything about human nature, just a little bit, what happens if you give somebody, you say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give you access to $10,000. You drop $10,000 right on their desk. You can spend it if you want, but you got to pay me back for every dollar out of that because it's my money. And I'll let you use it. But for the convenience of changing that timing, for the convenience of not having to save up for 50 years to buy the house, right? I'm going to charge interest. It's got to be worth my time to let you use that money now, right? Because I'm out for it. So they charge interest on it. How many people have the self-discipline to have access to 10 grand and say, you know what, I'll only use what I need? That's the thing, because ultimately what happened, and we've had history teach us this, you guys can see the market, what happens when people can't pay their bills. You can see the screen, yeah? Thumbs up. Perfect. Market crashes. Market crashes. And we got a really good dose of this, guys, back in 2008. The subprime market. If anyone was in, you know, selling real estate or mortgages or anything like that back in those times, you know what I'm talking about. People were buying houses because credit was too laxed, right? People were buying houses that were too expensive for them. They couldn't afford the payments. And when an entire market has too many people overextended, it crashes. So ultimately, there had to be some kind of accountability here, you know, to make sure that the market was protected. And so what we have is the birth of credit reporting as we know it today, okay? You see on the screen, we got 3 credit bureaus, big ones, 3 of the big ones, okay? And you guys are all familiar with these names: Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. Yeah, these are the ones everybody knows, because these are the guys that have most of the information that big banks draw from. But I want to be clear here, they're not the only credit bureaus out there. There's a bunch. You know, you got LexisNexis technically is a credit bureau. You've got Innovis is a credit bureau. You've got Rental Data is a credit bureau for renters. You got Check Systems. Those are all bureaus. Here's where we have to understand the players of the game, okay? The bureaus are nothing more than data storage warehouses. These are the guys who have all the information. That's it. Your score does not come from them directly. It's the information that's used to calculate your score that comes from them. Okay? And here's the other thing that'll throw a lot of people off. The bureaus, guys, they're not nonprofits. Okay? It throws a lot of people off because they're called bureaus. Surely it's a government entity, right? Surely they're publicly funded. No, they're not. They are publicly traded, okay, on the market. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. Again, remember what I said a little bit earlier. If you want to know why things are the way they are with credit, we have to follow the motivation, follow the money. How do these guys make their money? Simple. They charge a fee every time somebody reports information into them, or anytime somebody draws information out. They make money both ways. Okay, so let's say I'm a creditor, I'm a bank, I'm Chase, okay, and I got somebody who, maybe I gave them a car loan, maybe I gave them a credit card, I gave them some kind of money, maybe I gave them a mortgage, right? And because I gave them that mortgage, it's in my interest to report this. I'm going to pay a subscription fee, and I'm going to report this to the credit bureaus because I want some kind of accountability, right, for the money that I gave these people. Or let's say I'm a collection agency, okay? I'm going to want to go ahead and pay a fee, destroy somebody's credit. It increases the likelihood that I get paid. Okay, so they make money going in and they make money coming out. In other words, you have a client who wants to apply for a mortgage. You send them to the lender, and the lender is going to have to pay a lot of times 30, 40, 50 bucks in order to pull the credit report. This throws so many people off, like clients. And if you guys have ever had this, they're like, yeah, they pulled my credit, but he didn't give it to me, right? It's my credit report. No, it's not. It's not. It's actually the lender's credit report. The lender had to pay for it, right? Now, a lot of times they'll roll that to the client. A lot of times lenders are cool, right? And they'll do what they, they'll help people out, right? Here, let me tilt my computer screen for you, right? Type of thing. But ultimately, the bureaus don't want lenders giving credit reports away because they don't make any money that way. Okay. Instead, if you're a consumer, you've got to, if you want to see your credit score, you got to go to Credit Karma, got to sign up for a credit monitoring app. A lot of them charge 30 bucks a month. That's why, is they have to pay the bureaus for use of that information. Okay. Thumbs up if you're with me. With me? Good. Okay. So just to recap there, credit bureaus have the information. No scores are coming from them. They're just data storage warehouses. That's it. Okay. Here's the thing that will throw a lot of people off too. And I want to plant this seed earlier here. Again, based on the fact that these guys are money motivated, right? They're multi-billion-dollar industries and they got stock prices to worry about, that type of thing. They're not overly particular on what information gets reported. Okay, so there's no law that regulates or requires the credit bureaus to verify any of the information that's given to them. This is why we're in business. This is why people need credit coaching, right? Is because if let's say I'm a collection agency and I go and I buy a bunch of bad debt, right? I'm going to go to all the local hospitals, doctor offices. I'm going to go to the banks, utility companies, whatever. And I'm going to pay them, 10 cents on the dollar for all the bad debt that these guys weren't able to collect. That's how I get it, right? So what I'm going to get, I get an Excel spreadsheet, let's say, right? And on that spreadsheet is the information for these clients. Well, what I'm going to do, if I want to put it on their credit report, I need to report it to the bureaus, and I have this information. Well, hey, what if the social security number isn't part of that information, not part of the file I bought? Because I went to Pizza Hut and I bought all the bad debt from people who bounced checks from them. Last I checked, Pizza Hut doesn't verify your social when you order a pizza, right? Okay, so I don't have the social. All I have is the name. I've got John Williams. Okay, well, I'm going to do a search, see how many John Williams pop up. And heck, man, I see 20 of them. I don't know which one it is. I'll go ahead and put it on all their credit reports. And guys, that happens. That happens. Again, credit bureaus don't have to verify which John Williams it actually is. So that's where you run into a little bit of problems. Credit bureaus handle an awful lot of information. And they've straight up said there is one account type, and we'll get into what that is, that they legally have to verify. Okay, we'll get into what that account type is here in a second. Everything else, collections, late pays, your payment history for a credit card, they don't have to verify that any of that is correct. Okay. With that in mind, you start to see now, with a little bit more context, how your credit score determines a lot. All this information on the bureaus, the information that they have, is responsible for determining whether or not you qualify, okay? How much you qualify for, like the general amount. You'll get qualified for more if you get that better credit score. What your insurance premiums are, what your interest rates are, investment opportunities. A lot of times you can't buy on margin, right? If your credit score isn't good, they want to make sure you can cover it. Okay, you're good for it. Interest rates, right, et cetera, et cetera. I had on here marital prospects, but then I'm like, yeah, I probably ought to take that one off. True story though. I had a client that I'm like, guys, I always ask everybody, when you refer somebody over, I'm always asking them, what is your motivation? Like, why do you want to work on your credit? And I had one girl that was like, well, because the guy that I've been seeing, it's been a couple of years now, and I think he's going to ask me to marry him. And I'm like, and you're thinking that he's going to, he won't if your credit score is too bad? Anyway, joke, but there you go. Here's the big one, and this is why we're here. You guys are realtors, right? We deal with mortgages. And so what I want to do here is paint the picture on how much money is associated on that bureau information, okay? Let's say market going in Denver these days, can you guys even sell a house for $400,000 anymore? Are there even any $400,000 houses out there? Couple, right? I see, go down to Colorado Springs, maybe, Pueblo, right? So let's say we're on the outskirts of Denver. You got a $400,000 house. Bank is going to qualify that. A lot of times a lender can go all the way down to a 580. Okay, that's their bottom line. You'll see here that if you're looking at that middle light blue column, I don't care what your credit score is. I don't care if you got an 800. You're going to pay a lot in interest. You're pretty much going to pay for 2 houses, right, over the course of 30 years. It's expensive to do a loan. That's just the name of the game. But if you're taking that loan out with a 580, then not only are you paying more in interest anyway, but then you have an additional mortgage insurance payment on there because you're higher risk. And that's something we learned from the recession. You gotta protect them somehow, right? If a mass group of people default on their loans, not good. So insurance picks up the rest of that. So difference between doing a 580 and doing a loan at a 740, even though you're going to pay for 2 houses anyway, doing that 580 loan, you're going to pay almost $1 million just in interest, mortgage insurance. Basically, that's money that you're taking out of your pocket and you're putting it in the bank's pocket. You're putting it in insurance companies' pockets. Okay, makes sense. And this is just loans. This is just mortgages. Forget about credit cards, insurance premiums, right? Yada yada, lost income from not being able to get the job promotion, right? Things like that. You easily see how, wow, this information on your credit report is worth a lot of money, right? Is the moral of the story here. So here's the question: what information is worth this much? Like, that's a lot of money. What's on a credit report? Okay. And here's what we get into: the content of what the bureaus have. This is the information that they store. Okay, so one, you got all the personal information: birthday, social, makes sense, right? Names, addresses, all that makes sense. Yeah, past, previous employers. Okay, got it. Inquiries. What's an inquiry? You guys know what an inquiry is? Anytime somebody checks your credit, including you. If you check your own credit, that's an inquiry. Anytime somebody's looking at that information. We'll talk about inquiries because that's its own set of confusion right there. Okay, so we'll get into the reality of inquiries in a second. Those are going to show up on the credit report. And then you have every open account, everyone that's reporting to credit, all your mortgages, all your auto loans, right? Credit cards, installment loans. I have rental data on here. Oh, normally rental data doesn't appeal to or apply to credit. Rent, you know, you're renting from a management company. That's too bad. You're in an apartment. Doesn't help. Okay. However, and you guys write this down, okay, because this is tip number 1 on how to establish credit quickly. Rentreporters.com, or you can check out our website, creditadvisorinc.com. We have a couple different options for rental data. Now, what happens is that the client, in this case, they're the ones paying. Remember how I said normally, right? It's the banks that's paying. The client pays Rent Reporters to verify up to 2.5 years of rental data. And what Rent Reporters are going to do, they're going to call up the landlord, verify those on-time payments, and they will report it to TransUnion and Equifax. Okay. It's normally $95 a month to sign up with them, and then $10 a month they're ongoing for as long as somebody wants it. We a lot of times get early notification of when they're running a sign up promotion. They waive that sign up fee, so we can always let clients know, when that happens and get them some quick points there. Now, rental data normally not on there though if you're not signed up with a rental place. Okay, same as utility payments. That's a trick. That's a trick too, because normally utility payments are not on a credit report either. And a lot of clients are confused by this, right? They're like, well, Dave, I pay my cell phone bill on time. That's great. That's good. It's just that it's not going to help your credit unless, and write this down, they sign up for Experian Boost. And you can pop this into Google Experian Boost. So now if they're signing up for Rent Reporters and Experian Boost, which by the way, guys, is free, the Experian doesn't charge any money for it. Now you got ways of helping them with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. What Experian is going to do, it's important to know all the information here. Experian is going to want read-only permissions to the client's bank account. A lot of people don't like that. Okay, that's why everything I give is just information. Okay, they're going to sign up for read-only permissions. Experian is going to go through the bank statements and go back and verify utility payments. So bad news is you got to give them access to the bank account. The good news is that you'll see results within 5 minutes. As soon as you sign up with it, boom, you'll get an Experian score of some sort. Doesn't help everybody. This is really good for people who have thin credit files. Either they don't have credit established or they have very little credit established. Okay, if they've been borrowers for the last 30 years, it's probably not going to help them very much. Okay, all right. Now, guys, the reason, and you can all see my screen. Yeah, I just got to check. You can all see? Okay, cool. So the reason I got a picture here of a fishing setup, you got a bobber, you got a hook, okay, is, I'll tell you, here's the story, okay? My wife and I, we've got 4 boys. And when you got 4 boys, oldest one's 21, right? And then we got all ages all the way down to 6. When you have 4 boys, you can't do anything without it becoming like this testosterone-driven competition, right? So here's the deal. I'll take them fishing. We all go out fishing. Dad wants some peace and quiet. Guys, simmer down over there. I'm going to catch some fish. They don't care. Instead, what the competition becomes is who can cast the line out the furthest in the middle of the lake. And here's how they do it. They'll take all sorts of sinkers and they'll tie them onto their line. That way they can really huck that line out there and get it going and boom, all the way onto the middle of the lake. The only problem is that the line weighs so much, it pulls their bobber below the surface of the water and now defeats the entire purpose. Okay? There's the visual. Class dismissed, guys. That's credit reporting right there. It works the same way. You got 2 things to consider. One is the anchors pulling everything down. Okay? The other one is the bobber, the positive credit, pulling everything up. That's credit reporting. So what you see on this screen here is everything, all those open accounts, assuming you pay them on time, that's going to be your fishing bobber. That's going to be positive credit pulling it up. If you like it better, think about a hot air balloon. Okay? That's going to be the hot air portion of the hot air balloon that's giving you upward momentum. Okay? The sinkers is going to be everything on this screen. Anything negative. Any negative remarks on a credit report. So every collection, late pay, tax lien, right? Bankruptcies, repos. And you'll notice I skipped one. Judgments. Judgments. I created this PowerPoint, guys, back when judgments showed up on credit reports. Guess what? Not so much anymore. Okay. Here's why. About 2.5, 3 years ago, a law was passed that said that the credit bureaus have to verify that judgments are correct. Got to belong to the right person. Balance has to be right. Dates have to be right. Everything has to be verified, or they can't report them. The credit bureaus replied by saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We got like 320 million people in this country. You know, everyone who's got a social security number's got a credit report, even if it's blank, okay? But there's no way we can verify all the information for that many people. The entire system would crash down. So now they just don't report them. They don't publish them. So this begs a question, though, because if any of you out there, I assume that we've got people here. I mean, there's, what, 14 people logged in? I assume some people have been doing this for quite a while. Have you ever had a scenario where you have a client and they're like, yeah, credit score is good. They get pre-qualified even, right? Or they're on Credit Karma and they're like, man, I got a 750 credit score. I'm good to go. And then you get them to the lender. Have you ever run into underwriting issues because they get into the lender pulls the credit report, and lo and behold, they got $10,000 in judgments? Has anyone ever run into that? Here and there? Here's what's going on. That judgment doesn't live on the credit report. It's not on the bureaus. It's not with Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Instead, it lives at the courthouse. And it's going to show up due to a public record search that your lender is going to conduct through LexisNexis. And that's where it shows up. So client a lot of times never even knows it, right? Because it's not affecting their credit score. Instead, this becomes an underwriting issue. Here's the thing with judgments, guys, and why the bureau said that they can't verify them, is because I probably 75% of the time, and that's anecdotal, I don't have data on that, but a lot of the time, we'll get a client, lender sends them over, they got judgments, okay, $10,000. I'm talking to that client's like, whoa, I thought that I paid that. I mean, my wages were being garnished for 2.5 years. That's what happens. That's why judgments are wrong so much of the time, is because the client paid it, whether through wage garnishment or bank account freeze or something like that. They paid it. The balance is actually zero, but nobody ever went back and updated the court documents. So it's still showing up as $7,600. That's an underwriting. Yeah, that's a deal stopper right there. Anything over 2,000 with most lenders is going to be a deal stopper. Okay, so the repercussion, what we do as coaches, right, is we will get with that client, get with the creditor on it, and track down the letter of satisfaction showing that that debt was paid. Most lenders are able to take that letter of satisfaction, give that to their underwriter, and push it through manual underwriting. Okay, so that's what you got to do. But it's also why judgments aren't on credit reports. Okay, makes sense? All right. Here's the thing. So all this stuff, right? All this stuff on credit reports, I get asked a lot of the time, Dave, really? Like, really? Isn't credit reporting just another way to discriminate against people? Like, isn't it true that people who have a lot of money have better credit? No, that is not true. That's not true at all. We've got millionaires signed up because they don't know how to manage it. Here's what's not on a credit report. Any discrimination of any kind. No discrimination on a credit report. So you're never going to see race. You're never going to see gender, sexual preference, religious affiliation, right? Criminal record. None of that's going to be on a credit report. Here's the one that throws a lot of people off. No income. Your income does not get reported. And here's the other thing. Dollar amounts also don't matter. Doesn't matter what the dollar amount is on an account, okay? Instead, it matters what the ratio of it is, all right? And we'll get into more of that after the break, after we get into some credit, how scores are calculated. All right. So you're all with me. You're all with me. All that information that we just talked about lives with the credit bureaus, right? And then what's going to happen is that another company, there's another player in the game that's going to take that information and put it into a complex algorithm and crunch out a credit score. Just like a teacher is going to be responsible for putting all the assignments in, and then you're going to calculate a GPA out of that. Okay. You guys have heard of FICO, right? Give me a thumbs up if you've heard of FICO. Cool. FICO is just another player in the game, guys. They're another multi-billion-dollar corporation. It stands for Fair Isaac Corporation. Their product is mathematical formulas. That's all they do. They create mathematical formulas that crunch all the numbers and spit out credit scores. Okay? So, nod if you've ever run into this. Have you ever had a client you're talking to and they're like, I'm good. I check my credit regularly. Credit Karma tells me I have a 760. You ever run into that? No one? Credit Karma tells me I've got a 740. You get them to the lender, and here's the thing, lender pulls the credit, they're not at a 760, they're at a 660. Have you ever run into that? There it is. Why is Credit Karma so off? Why isn't a credit score, right? Well, here's the thing. We're talking about FICO. We're talking about Fair Isaac Corporation. Okay, Credit Karma doesn't use a FICO score. I call it a FACO score. Okay, it's bogus. That's actually Vantage Score is the name of the company that they get that from. Vantage Score. No banks use a Vantage Score. They're promotional purposes only. All right, that's why Credit Karma, and guys, I tell you this, I'm not ripping on Credit Karma. I actually like them, okay? But you got to know that the scores are going to be way off. A lot of times they're going to be inflated by 40 to 80 points sometimes. Again, we have to follow the money. This is motivation. Why would Vantage Score create an algorithm that inflates credit scores? Well, let's follow the money. Credit Karma makes their money based on what? If you haven't signed up, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to present to you credit cards, right, based on your credit score. And that's where they make their money. Foot traffic to their website. They get more people clicking on their website, doing a vanity search on their credit score. That's the hook. They're fishing, right? The hook is come check your credit score. Well, for the most part, if I'm a client wanting to check my credit score, I'm going to do a vanity check on that. I don't want to see my score. I don't want to see myself at a 420, right? This isn't a Capitol Hill festival in Denver, right? Instead, I want to see that score as high as possible. And so they're just giving clients what they want. They're going to do an algorithm that's a little bit more lenient. That way the score looks a little bit better. That way that client is more likely to log in and subscribe to one of those credit card offers. And then Credit Karma makes a fee on that. They make a commission based on somebody signing up for the credit card. So there's the money motivation for you. Now, I got a conspiracy theory for you, and then we'll cut here for a couple minutes so everyone gets some water and use the bathroom. Here's the conspiracy theory, okay? Ultimately, home purchases, real estate purchases are good for the economy, yeah? Right? I mean, for the most part, a healthy housing economy, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to remain all right. So the powers that be want to figure out ways on how to help you guys, right? How to sell more houses. And they're like, well, we learned that in 2008, that if we relax the credit requirements and let people do a loan with a 550 or a 500, that doesn't go well. And we know that if we cut DTI requirements, that doesn't go well because, again, people are biting off more than they can chew. So what else can we do? Well, what if instead of using a FICO score, we start using Vantage Score? Well, what do we decide? Vantage Score is going to inflate those scores a little bit, right? So that's the thing. Without changing a thing, just by going from FICO to Vantage, boom, you don't change anything else. All you change is how many people are going to become eligible based on credit scores because now you're using Vantage Score. Here's the, okay, so there we go. Here's the conspiracy part of it. Who do you think owns Vantage Score? Can you guys see my screen? You're looking at the 3 owners of Vantage Score. So there you go. It's so real, guys, that they actually had to roll back law, legal jargon, that said that the credit bureaus couldn't be responsible for calculating credit scores that were used for lending because it was a conflict of interest. That has been repealed out of the law, just to give you guys an idea. All right, so there you have it. Last thing I will say about this slide here is that even FICO isn't as straightforward as you might think. You don't have just one FICO credit score, okay? You actually have 56 different algorithms that FICO uses to calculate scores. And then what they do is they lease those out to different industries. So basically, if you go to buy a car, you're going to see a different credit score than if you apply for a credit card or if you apply for a house. They're all calculated differently. So they can fluctuate by as much as 100 points, believe it or not. That's FICO. So this is why it's so hard. If you're a consumer, how do you know, right? What's your credit score is? You don't. The only way that you're going to know what your credit score is on a mortgage is to go apply for the mortgage. So I encourage you with that information, next time you're talking to a client that's like, I could never get approved. I'm just looking, right? The deal's never going to get that far because they're just looking, not going to happen. I beg to differ, right? Get them to the lender, get the credit report pulled, because ultimately they don't know what their score is. And in part 2 of this course, we're going to go into how to come up with a plan of action to get that client where they need to be as quickly as humanly possible, okay? And offer them a little bit of education and insight along the way. All right, so guys, we're going to break for 10 minutes. I'm going to take this off of mute for a second. If you have any questions, feel free. I'll hang out. And otherwise, let's reconvene at 2:05 and power through the second half, yeah? Okay, we should have everybody unmuted unless you yourself have pressed mute. Questions?
David, I have one.
Yes.
So you were talking about that Experian Boost, right?
Yes. Yes.
That they'll go back through and they need read-only access to your bank accounts to prove you paid your utilities on time, correct?
Correct.
How does that work if you have yourself set up financially where you have all of your utilities paid for automatically on a credit card and then just pay your credit card off every month and you don't pay those bills directly from your bank account?
You give access to the credit card. So
Okay.
whatever account you're paying your utilities out of. Now,
Okay.
one thing I will say about Experian Boost, okay? I recommend it. See, every time a client signs up with this, guys, with us, we do a written coaching plan for them to address all aspects of credit. And one of them is how to inflate credit, right? So sometimes I'll recommend Experian Boost. But we also have to be clear on how it works, okay? The jury's still out. I still have yet to get enough sample sizes because this program's only about a year old. And what I don't know is, let's say you sign up for Experian Boost and you give them your credit card, account. They're like, good. And then let's say that 1 month you don't pay your phone bill or your electric bill out of that account. Let's say you use a different account for it. What I don't know is, does that miss payment, since they're only looking at the credit card account, does it now show a late or a skip pay? And will that hurt the credit score? I need more sample sizes to know for sure if that's the case. Okay. But assuming that we're dealing with a client that may only need, 10 points to get them to the mark, a lot of times Experian, and especially if Experian is the low score, a lot of times this is a game, right? Because a lender is going to look at the middle score. They're going to pull all 3 bureaus and they're going to go with the middle number. Well, if Experian's the lowest and 10 points will pop them up to the new mid, a lot of times that can be a good way to do it. Good question. What else?
Regarding online, if you have a currently and you have one that is
All right, no questions?
prior to the code, will be taking place prior to the
Okay.
We're giving us that if you need the parameters that we sent out an email the other day, you could do that online. If you don't have
Hey, Patricia, do me a favor. I'm going to
Yeah.
mute everybody, and will you raise your hand so I can see what that looks like on my end?
Excuse me, if you're thinking of doing online courses, that's temporary period. Then
Okay, so everyone's muted. Oh, perfect. Got it. Okay, and you can talk now, yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So I think that's how we'll do it for the second half, is what I'm going to do. And this puts a lot on me, but I'm willing to, we'll keep everyone muted. And then if there's a question, because I like to be able to answer questions as we're going, I'll just unmute for that person that raises their hand because it gives me a little pop up here.
To be able to raise your hand, don't forget to open the chat room. You have the option in the chat room to raise your hand and lower your hand once the question has been answered.
Question is, how do I then lower your hand? Oh, it automatically does. Did you lower your own hand?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, out of curiosity, raise it again real quick. Let me see if I can lower it. I think I can. Oh, lower hand right there.
Yep, you
Okay,
did.
cool. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Give me a couple minutes and we'll reconvene, yeah? All right.
How's everybody doing with this madness we got going on here? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Doug. It's interesting. How you doing?
I'm all right. Just making calls and talking to my sphere.
Yeah.
People aren't too thrilled about door knocking.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just trying to weather the storm here. I was just seeing how everybody else is doing.
Yeah. So how you go around door knocking?
What's that?
How you go around door knocking?
I'll just go around the neighborhood, knock on doors, ask people how they're doing, if they need any help with anything, let them know that we're here to help no matter what.
Yeah.
And that we can do everything hands-free and touch-free and, all e-contracts and everything else. So
Yeah.
kind of the tack I've been taking with it. But it's very interesting because much information out there, like Facebook groups and stuff, state mastermind and whatnot, saying that, oh, well, this has been banned, that's been banned, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, yeah, that might be the case in your market, but that's not the case in everybody's market.
Yeah, correct.
It's just a very interesting thing in the law.
Yeah. How's everybody else doing?
Are you seeing that clients are resistant to start the process of home buying now because they're unsure of what's going on?
No, I think that people just need to be reassured that, our industry is still alive and well. We're still doing what we're doing, and we could do things without people having to touch each other and everything else. And it's just a matter of they're reassuring everybody that, hey, we're alive and well. We're doing it. People still need to buy. People still need to sell. And, everybody's fears aside, life still has to go on.
Right, yeah.
That's just the way I've been. I haven't been pushy with anybody. I've just said, hey, listen, you know, whatever you need, anybody else, you know, who has a need, here for you. No, we understand everybody. We can do everything touch-free, hands-free, yada, yada, yada.
You know, and interest rates are so good right now. Like, it's seriously, it's going to come back, you know. And I think, I mean, we've been getting more phone calls. I think people are at home. So, I mean, I think it's awesome. And thank you, Patricia, right, for doing this for it. You know, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, people going to do it. You know, I've done a lot of webinars before in the past, and you know, it doesn't work because people just don't do it.
Yep.
So I think it's awesome that we have such good participation here. That's a kudos to you guys.
Yeah. Talking about participation, there is one person I have hard time to get in touch with, and the name is pretty hard for me to read. It ends with Josky. Are you there, Mr. or Miss?
Yeah, I see that. So just to recap, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump back in. To recap, if you do want a shot at getting your continuing education credit, we have to have video on to be able to verify attendance. This is a state mandated hour 40 minutes in order to get the credit. So we're experimenting right now. We're doing everything we can to get that approval. So help us out and make sure that your video is on so we can see your smiling face sitting there. Hopefully smiling. Well, you know, hopefully it's not like, oh, waste of time, right? Hopefully it's good content for you. Part one is really what I think is the boring part. All right. So we're about to get into what I consider to be the fun part of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody out, mute all, and then I'm going to do my best, guys, to check my screen. If you have a question, normally if I'm doing this live, you know, in person, I like to be able to answer questions as they arise, especially in this section because there's a lot of information, okay? So I'm going to check, I'm going to look down every so often, and if I see that you've raised your hand, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question, okay? And we'll see, unless it's just a fiasco, and then we'll just open it up at the end, all right? So, jumping.
And I'm also monitoring the chat room, so the chat group. So if you have any questions and you want to ask it in there, I will relay that.
Awesome. Thank you, Patricia. Okay, guys. So here's the thing. And I alluded to this right before we broke, right? You get them to your lender. Lender's going to pull credit, and they're going to see all three bureaus. Here's my question. Are those scores ever the same? No, like almost never, right? Almost never the same. Here's the reason why, okay? We gotta understand, number one, the bureaus are different companies. Like I mentioned earlier, they charge a fee. So if you want to report information into the bureau, you pay a fee. Well, if I'm a little collection agency, you know, and maybe I got a $150 collection, maybe it's not worth it for me to pay all three of the bureaus, right, to put that one collection on there. So maybe I only put it on one. Maybe I only put it on TransUnion. Maybe I put it on two. Maybe I put it on all three, right? Just depends on how motivated I am. So we have to understand that each of the bureaus has different accounts reporting to them, okay? The accounts that you're more likely to see are reporting to all three, like regularly, like on a consistent basis, is going to be what we call positive contracts. A positive contract simply means that if you pay it on time, you get positive credit for doing that. So think mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, right? Those are the big ones. They're installment loans a lot of times. If you make those payments on time, the company that you're paying, the creditor, is going to report all the information that they have every single month. They're going to give them the balance, the payment date, you know, the status of the account, all that. Very, very expensive to do that kind of contract if you're the creditor. So why do it? Well, if you notice the places that I rattled off there, mortgages. Well, man, a mortgage is an expensive, they got a lot of money on the line. They got hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's out there. So it's worth it for them to do a positive contract because they're trying to hold that client accountable, right? If you go late on your payment, your score is going to take a hit, right? And that's the accountability that they're looking for. And if you're a cell phone company and you only got a couple $100 on the line at every point in time, you're probably not going to use a positive contract. Instead, you're probably going to use a negative contract that says we're not going to report anything to the credit bureaus ever unless client stops paying. Client stops paying, then we're going to turn it into collections, and then we're going to put it on as a negative item. So that's how you can think about the difference. Positive contracts mean you get positive credit. Negative contracts are nothing ever good. It's always negative, always bad if you see them on a credit report, okay? Second reason, again, going back to the algorithms, you got to figure each bureau has different information. They're all using different algorithms, and so therefore you have 3 different scores, okay? What you see on your screen right here is if you were to take all 56 of those, FICO credit scores and kind of mash them all together, average them out, this would be a pretty good representation of what goes into your average credit score. Okay, so what we're going to do is fly around the wheel here in the order of largest to smallest and break this down. Okay, first section of the pie, payment history. By far and away the largest slice of the pie, 35%. So what this is saying is really, and rule number 1 is always pay your accounts on time. If it's a positive contract, don't miss a payment. Okay, going back to the home example, right? Let's just say we've got 2 borrowers that the bank is looking at. You got Bob, who, let's say Bob has a bankruptcy from 5 years ago, right? Since then, he's made every single payment on time and he's looking good, right? Got back on track. Cool. You got Mary. Mary has always been a really good borrower. She's always made her payments on time, except for last month. Last month, she has a 30-day late. All things considered equal, you're the bank. Who are you going to give the money to? If you're thinking Bob, then you're right. And the reason being is because Bob has shown a better responsibility with recent behavior. 5 years ago, right, he had a bankruptcy. Yeah, I wouldn't give him a dime, right? He's a bad bet. Things were going south for him. But since then, recent history shows that he's an on-time borrower. Mary, sure, she's always been on time, really good borrower. But last month, she had a 30-day late. Is it possible that she just had a brain fart, forgot to make her payment? Sure, yeah. Is it also possible that she lost her job, she's getting a divorce, her life has become a country song, right? And the world is slowly falling out from underneath her. Yeah, that's true as well. Every problem starts with a 30-day late, right? And so since I'm the bank, my job, guys, as an underwriter, right? The job of an underwriter is risk mitigation. Their job is to, minimize risk, and unknown questions don't go well for that. So because I don't know which one it is, did Mary just forget her payment, or is now Mary's life, going through a hardship? I'm not going to give that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suppress her credit score through the algorithm. Here's the question. You got somebody who has one single 30-day late. Let's say they had an 820 credit score beforehand. Now they have a 30-day late. What does that do to their credit score? And I'm hearing thoughts out there. I'm hearing, 20 points, right? Oh, it's going to take your score by 50 points. Really? 50 points? Try 150. If you've got an 820 credit score, you have one single 30-day late on your mortgage, your credit score is going to go down 120 to 150 points. That's how impactful recent late pays are. 35% of your score is payment history. Okay? The higher you are starting out is the further you stand to fall. So if you're at a 500 credit score and you have a late pay, that's probably one of 70 that you have, right? So one more late pay, it's not going to do a whole heck of a lot. But if you've got perfect credit, you have a late pay, that's going to hit you real hard. Now, the good news about that is that as long as it proves to be a one-time thing, right? And you get back on time with those payments, it'll recover. Okay, it'll take a long time to recover all the way back up to 820, but you'll recover significantly, back up to a 750, 760 within 4 to 6 months. Okay, but it does say credit is a reflection of borrowing behavior over time. Okay, so rule number 1, always be on time. Now, part of the conversation that was going on while we were in break here is, hey, how's it going recently with everything going on in the world right now? How's it going? I can tell you how it's going in my life. I'm getting a lot of phone calls. Since we've been in here, my phone's been ringing about people who are asking, what's this going to do to my credit? If I'm going to go late on something, I'm trying to get a house here, right? Here's the thing, guys. We have to understand that creditors are people too, okay? And if these are open accounts, customer service still means something to them. So when you're out there talking with your clients and somebody's worried about what's going on, here's my advice. Call up your creditors and ask them for a skip pay. Tell them what's going on. Tell them they're affected. Their income is being impacted. Most creditors are going to allow them a 1 or 2 month deferment without reporting them late. And then what that's going to do is free up some extra cash for that person to go and put food on the table with. Okay? Maybe not toilet paper. I don't know if they're gonna luck out there. All right, but that'll free up some extra money. Okay. The other thing too is if somebody that they're gonna go late. Okay, that they know they're gonna go late. They don't have enough money to cover all their bills. It helps to prioritize paying which bills based on which ones report to credit. So I always tell my clients, if you don't have enough money to cover everything, don't go late on anything that reports to credit, because that'll destroy you. That'll follow you around for years while you recover from that. Instead, go late on something that doesn't report, something that uses a negative contract, right? Go late on the cell phone. Go late on your electric bill. Go late on your HOA, whatever. Look, I never like giving someone advice to say go late on anything. It's going to be tough for them to get out of that. They're going to have to get caught up. They're going to have to make late payments. Yeah, but it's not going to demolish their credit in the meantime. Okay, so those are the 2 big tips right there. Call creditors, ask for a deferment, and 2, prioritize your bills based on which ones report to credit. Okay? Now, payment history is where every single negative item lives on a credit report. So every late pay, collection, charge off, tax lien, right, foreclosure, bankruptcy, all that's going to live in payment history. If you don't have any negative items on the credit report, this is all going to be positive stuff. Okay, so let's talk about some of the negatives. Number 1, if you've ever worked with credit repair or talked to a client who's gone through credit repair, I hear it all the time based on what we do, right? All they ever did, they just disputed everything. Okay, that's great. In that case, all they were doing was addressing 35% of the problems on the credit report and literally ignoring everything else. Fixing credit, guys, and maintaining strong credit is more than just disputing negative items, because at most, you're going to affect 35%, okay? You really have to address the positive stuff. But for the sake of what we're all here for, let's talk about some of these negative items, starting with collections, because it's tax time. And what a lot of clients do around tax time is they'll take their entire tax return and they're going to pay off all their collections, right? Oh, drives me nuts, because then they'll usually call me after they pay everything and they're like, Dave, I don't know what happened. My credit score went down 80 points. Yeah, that's why I say don't pay collections. You're right. Not until we've looked at their credit report, not until we've verified that those are actually legitimate collections, right? Because here's why. When you pay a collection, and some of you may have even experienced this, when you pay a collection, they don't take it off your credit report. Most of the time, 90% of the time, they leave it on your credit report and update the balance to reflect $0. Great. Now it's a paid collection with $0 balance. But what did we talk about earlier before the break? Do balances make a difference? No. Dollar amounts don't matter on credit reports. So it doesn't matter if it's a $0 balance or if it's a $10,000 balance. Those collections are going to do the same thing. It's a collection on the credit report. It's doing damage. And here's the kicker. The thing that does the most damage is what they call the date of last activity. That is a reflection of the last time they were paid anything. So if you have a client who goes through and pays all their medical collections, they're going to refresh the date of last activity, making it recent. Now their score is likely going to go down. Okay, so for the most part, I don't coach people to pay collections until after we verify that those are correct. And then only if we get a letter of deletion and work out some kind of way to get that item removed off the credit report so it goes away. Okay, here's the other thing. Medical debt, guys, your lender doesn't have to look at that. They don't have to figure that into the DTI. So, you know, if somebody's prioritizing collections, I'm not going to tell somebody to pay a medical collection if they've got other non-medical collections on there. So here's the deal. We've talked about collections now for like 10 minutes. Credit reports are like fingerprints. People have all sorts of different accounts on there. When in doubt, get them to me, because then we'll do a credit report analysis and come up with a plan of action for that person, okay? Because they're all a little bit different. Another example is charge-offs. Charge-offs are not a collection, okay? A charge-off usually starts out as a positive credit account. So in other words, it was a credit card. It was an auto loan, right? It was something that was helping to build positive credit. And then the client stopped paying it. And when they stopped paying it, the creditor closed the account and wrote off that dollar amount, turned it in on their taxes as a loss. That's why they're also showing up as a profit and loss a lot of times. Here's the thing. Since they were once a positive account, the client's probably going to have to pay that, right? We'll help them negotiate a settlement if they don't want to do it on their own or they're having trouble, right? And a lot of times we'll still want to verify that the balance is right, that it wasn't miscalculated, okay, as happens a lot of times. But for the most part, assuming that it's going to check out and everything's going to get verified, sometimes they get removed, right? But not as often as collections. Assuming that that gets checked out, client's going to need to pay that down. Thing is, when they pay it down, unlike a collection, it's going to help their credit score because it's going to make it look like they're paying down an open account. Okay? Good? You with me? Awesome. All right. What else as far as negatives go? Any negative can be removed from a credit report. I'm going to get into that in a couple of slides down the road, but just know we're going to come back to it. I don't care if it's a bankruptcy. I don't care if it's a foreclosure, collection, charge-off. Anything can be removed from a credit report because there's nothing saying that it's accurate in the first place. And so it falls under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay, so more to come on that. For the time being, we're going to move on to amounts owed. This is 30% of the credit score. Okay, a lot. It's worth a lot, almost as much payment history. Here's what it is. Amounts owed really should be called the revolving section because it is a reflection of credit cards. So follow me with this. Credit cards, one credit card is all that somebody needs to have to unlock this point potential. If somebody doesn't have a credit card, I'm going to put down in their written coaching plan, I'm going to say, step one, get a credit card. I don't care if you have to, what you have to do, you need a credit card. It's mandatory because without it, you're not unlocking the potential of those points. Meaning, the highest your score is going to get without a credit card, if you're like in perfect condition on everything else, 680, maybe 700, okay, because you're not unlocking 30%. You need to get a credit card. Here's the good news. You only need one credit card to unlock those points, okay? So here's the point that I want to drive home. You're telling me that one credit card is worth almost as much as every single payment on every single open account on a credit report and every single negative, late pay, collection, charge-off, tax, all that, one credit card? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why someone needs to have it. Here's why, guys. Let's go back to Bob and Mary, okay? Bob has $1 million mortgage, right? And this guy, he's a great borrower. Take out what I said earlier, right? Bob didn't have bankruptcy 5 years ago. Bob, he's been on time the entire time he's had this mortgage open, okay? Great borrower. Mary doesn't have a mortgage at all, but she has a credit card. She got a Victoria's Secret credit card a couple years back, and she manages it well, and she's also been on time the entire time. Assuming Bob doesn't have a card, and the only difference is those accounts, right? Who's got the higher score? Knowing that I just gave you the answer, Mary, because she's got the credit card. Here's why. Mortgage, you don't have a lot of freedom, right? Bob doesn't have freedom on how he manages that. His payment's due on the 5th. It's the same amount every month. He either pays it or he doesn't, right? Not a lot of freedom. Credit card, on the other hand, there's a million ways you can manage that, right? You can max it out. You can make minimum payments on it. You know, you can throw it in a bowl of water, stick that sucker in the freezer and let it expire. Because there's so much freedom on how to manage a credit card, it's a better reflection of risk and responsibility. That's why they give it 30% in the algorithm. Okay, so here's the tips that I want you to write down. This applies to your life, right? You can give people these tips today. How do you get a credit card in your name if you don't have one? First way, have your mom or your dad or your husband or your wife or some other family member add you onto their credit card as an authorized user, okay? Authorized user is free, and it will not affect the account holder's information. So, if I'm dad, and I do this, by the way, I recommend if you got kids, when your kid turns 16 years old, add them onto your credit card, right? I'm not telling you to give them the card unless you like adrenaline, but add them onto the card, because what that's going to do is it's going to transfer that account from your credit report to theirs. It's going to give them all the positive credit that you've been building up on that. It's free. Nobody's going to check your credit report for doing it. Okay. No, it's not going to, you don't get any of their information. It's only one way. The kid only gets your information. Okay. That's why it's good. The other nice thing about it is that it's going to show up on the credit report in as little as 30 days, 30 to 45 days as a max, okay? Depends on when the credit card company reports that change to the credit bureaus. They all usually do it once a month. So it just depends on where we're at in the month there. But generally, 30 to 45 days later, that person's going to show up with all this beautiful credit. I'll give you an example. We had a client came to us. He had a 512 credit score. And here's the deal. The guy, if we're talking about a hot air balloon, he had no hot air in his balloon. He had a couple of sandbags in the way of medical collections. He had 2 medical collections on there, okay? We were fortunate enough to get both of those removed off of there, which 100% deletion is rare, okay? But medical collections, it happens, right? So we got both the collections taken off. Turns out that's the only reason the guy had a credit score in the first place. He had no positive credit. After talking with him, coaching, we find out his mom has a Discover card that's 25 years old, and she only used it on Sundays type of thing, right? Super low balance on there. So here's what we did. Got the collections removed, had mom add him onto that Discover card as an authorized user. He closed on his loan 2 months later with a 789. That's the power of an authorized user. But I got a grain of salt here, okay? Only in the right circumstances, okay? Because one of the circumstances I won't recommend it is if it's a perfect stranger. If you don't know the person, there's a lot of companies out there. These are scams. I don't even know how this is legal. But what they'll do, they'll charge somebody $300 to sign up for a trade line, and they'll find somebody to add them on as an authorized user to who knows who, right? Number one, you're paying $300 for it. Wow, that's weird. Number two, you're getting added onto a total stranger's credit card. I don't like that, because here's why. You are now the subject of how that person manages their credit card. So if they stop making payments on it, or they got their dishwasher goes out and they don't have cash, they get put on credit, that's going to affect your borrower because they're on the account legitimately. All right. So don't do perfect stranger. Keep it to family. Okay. Family. Now that's authorized user. The second way, and this to me is the more preferred method. Okay. The client needs to get a credit card in their own name, something that they're 100% responsible for. The question I get so much of the time is, yeah, okay, well, so I get declined. Every time I apply for a credit card, I get declined. I don't have a score. Nobody wants to give me any credit. Cool. Get a secured credit card. Okay, we've got options at our website, creditadvisorinc.com. check it out. There's guaranteed approval options on there because they're secured. In other words, the client is going to open that up using a security deposit. Okay, and I don't care where they get it, right? They can go to their bank, right? They can go anywhere and get a secured credit card. It's just got to be a secured card. Here's how they work. Client's going to have to pay a security deposit. They get to choose how much the deposit is. So, you know, maybe it's $200. Maybe they can afford $300. Why wouldn't you just choose the lower? Well, because that deposit is then going to become the limit on the card, right? So here's the thing. Everybody thinks that they need to have a credit card that's got this huge limit on it, right? I need a $20,000 limit credit card to build my credit. No, you don't. Again, dollar amounts don't matter. Size doesn't matter with credit cards, okay? So instead of thinking about, oh, I need this huge limit, instead think about how you're going to manage that card once you get it, okay? Because here makes a difference. The ratio of how much credit you're using. Doesn't matter if it's $20,000, doesn't matter if it's $200. What matters is what percentage of that limit you're using, okay? Things that throw clients off. They'll get a secured credit card and they'll make the mistake of thinking that it is a debit card and that they open their account up with the security deposit. No, it's a deposit. So in other words, if you get the card and you go and spend $10 on it, the client will get a statement that says, hey, I'm the credit card company, pay me $10, right? And the client's like, oh, they're going to take that out of my deposit. No, they don't. You have to pay that, okay, because it's a deposit. I underscore that because I've had so many people with confusion on that, okay? Boom, 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 boom. That's credit cards. Hands up. Do we have any hands up? No hands up. Okay, so plug it along. Last point to this section, and this applies to mortgages only, because we're all in the real estate gig here, right? Every credit card on a mortgage algorithm weighs the same. So here's the deal. You got a 30% section of the pie, right? 30%. If you have one credit card, that sucker's worth 30%. Better manage it well, right? And by ratio, guys, managing it well means you're keeping the balance low. Here's something. How low do you keep the balance? Because you've all heard different stuff, right? Give me a thumbs up if you've heard that you're supposed to manage your credit cards, keep the balance under 75%. Anyone? Thumbs up? Thumbs up if you ever heard that you're supposed to keep the balance under 50%. 50%. Surely we can get there. We go. Anyone ever heard that? No, 50%. No, you want to keep it under 30%. Is that the right one? 30%. I've heard some people say that I should keep the balance under 10%. 10%. Do I get 10%? We're all right, okay? Because it's a sliding scale. The reality is that the further you pay that balance down, the higher your score is going to go. Here are the major benchmarks, okay? If you're over the limit, big time penalty. I'm going to write out in the action plan, in the coaching plan, pay down this credit card below the limit, okay? Because you're taking a big penalty there. Once it's below the limit, score is going to jump up quite a bit. When you hit 75%, it'll jump up. 50% jumps up. 30%, 10%. Those are all the big benchmarks with mortgages. Perfection is when somebody can pay the balance down to $10. $10, not zero. Okay, pay it down to 10. You get more positive credit by keeping $10 on it than zero because it shows a little bit of usage. Okay, the other problem, hey, I got a hand up. Trisha.
Yes, I have a question from Ricky here.
Okay.
He says, to maximize the positive effect on the credit score, what is the balance recommendation?
So
Awesome.
he just answered it
And
after
you
I typed
answered
that
it.
in.
Yeah.
We're on. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to lower the hand. All right, good deal. So good question. $10 is perfection, guys. I call it the $10 rule. The other risk that you run when you pay a credit card down to zero is Capital One. They're notorious for doing this. If your credit score is taking a hit, like let's say I had this card open for like 5 years, right? 5 years ago, my credit score was 750. Since then, I got a divorce and got in a car wreck, and my last name is Smith, so I have some credit problems now. Now my score is at a 550. If I pay that balance down to zero, Credit One's going to pull the plug. They're going to close it. They're going to be like, hey, spending spree's over here, buddy. Get that credit score improved. So that's tragic if that happens, right? Because you're going to lose the positive credit, all the payment history, everything goes away. Your score is going to go down even more. Okay, so don't run that risk. Don't pay it down to 0. Pay it down to 10. A lot of times clients will ask me, they're like, hey, Dave, don't I have to pay interest on that $10? Yeah, you know, I'll give you the quarter, right? I mean, it's worth it. You got to pay to play, okay? Next point. All credit cards weigh the same. So in other words, you're coaching somebody and they're like, wow, I'd really love to put an offer in this house, but my credit, I can't do it right now. Yeah, and if you feel confident, I don't know what kind of conversations you guys have with these people, but if you find out that they've got multiple credit cards like I do, right? I got a client who has 3 different credit cards and they're all maxed out, you know? And so they think, oh my gosh, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to dig out of this, because one of them has a $5,000 limit and it's maxed out. I got another one that's got a $1,000 limit and it's maxed out. And then I got my old one that I got when I was in college, has a $300 limit and it's maxed out. Awesome. Okay, so what we know about mortgages is that they all weigh the same. Each one of them is worth 10% section of that 30% pie, right? So what I'm going to coach them to do is pay off the $300 card first, because you're going to get the same bump to your score as if you paid down the $5,000 card. It's not going to take you forever to do it, okay? That is with mortgages. Don't bank on that for cars. Cars are going to be different. Cars are going to add up how much available or how much total credit you have, your lines, and then how much is used. They add them all together. Okay, so that's for mortgages only. Cool. Okay, no hands up. Sweet. I'm going to move on. All right. If there's any questions that I don't answer, guys, email me. Okay, you'll have all my contact information by the time we leave here. Moving on to length of history. 15% section of the pie. Worth quite a bit here. Let's understand how it works, okay? This is an average of all your open accounts, okay? So a lot of times clients will, you know, they'll say, oh, like I'll coach them, I'll like close this account down. But Dave, I heard it's really bad to close down, you know, accounts. Yeah, if you're closing down something that's on the higher side of average, right? If your oldest account is 10 years old and that's the one that you close, that's a horrible decision, you know, because you're going to lower your average and you're going to lose out on so much. Your score is going to go down. But guys, it's March now. That means that we have a lot of people that have like accounts that are like 3 months old, you know, 4 months old. Because why? A couple months ago, back in December, they all wanted to save 15% at the register while they were doing their holiday shopping, right? And so they all applied to that store credit card and opened up 5 new accounts. Well, now there's credit scores in the toilet because they open up those new accounts. They're bringing their average down. So I'm going to coach that person that, hey, look, you've got Capital One, you have Credit One, you have this account that's been open for 5 years, right? Let's close down all these newer ones and bump back up your average and get some of those points back. Okay, but again, credit reports are like fingerprints. They're all different. You know, so what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. You know, that's why I like to see the credit report first. That's why we always do a free credit report analysis, is because we got to be able to give sound advice. Okay, that's length of history. Ultimately, you can have up to 25 years of credit history on a credit report. The closer you get to that, the higher your score is going to go. All right. So if you have an account, even if you hate the annual fee on it, you know, but it's your oldest account, sometimes it's worth it to pay that fee if you know you're going to be applying for a loan. If you're not planning on using credit, do what makes financial sense. If you have a card that you don't want to pay the annual fee on, I won't tell you to keep something open. What I will say is that if you know you're going to be applying for a home loan, you know you're trying to refinance a car, don't do anything crazy, you know, a couple of months leading up to that. It's like going to the gym, right? If you know you're going to be going to the beach, you know, in August, well then, hey, you're going to do your crash diet, you're going to hit the gym, right? And you're going to get into shape starting, you know, in spring, right? A lot of people. But don't talk to somebody in December because they're eating pumpkin pie and turkey and friggin' stuffing, right? That's not the time. My point is that if you're not going to use credit, do what makes financial sense. Pay off your car loan, You know, don't pay off your car loan if you're going to be going for a loan. Okay, it's going to jack everything up. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, moving on. New credit. This section stands to represent how much your credit score is going to go down anytime you apply for a new account. Two reasons for this. One, it's a new account. I don't know, if I'm FICO, I don't know how this person's going to be with that account. Are they going to be on time with it? Are they going to max it out? Are they going to go late on it right away? Like, what's going to happen? I don't know. And so there's about a 4-month probationary period where they're going to suppress the score. And that is to prevent people from going out and getting themselves in over their heads, right? I don't want, this person to go and open 20 credit cards and buy a new truck and when they can't afford it, right? So rather than give them a bunch of positive credit, they're going to hold the score down, prevent them from opening up too much at one time. What happens after 4 months of good payments is that payment history, the big 35% chunk, will take over, and then credit score is going to start to incline. You get those points back, okay? Reason number 2, a credit score goes down from opening a new account is an inquiry, okay? Because the creditor is going to pull your credit and check and see how you're doing, right? Let's clear up some stuff about inquiries. We got 2 different kinds. One is a hard inquiry. That is anytime you're applying for a new debt. You apply for new debt, they're going to pull your credit. That's going to ding your score 2 to 5 points. Those 2 to 5 points, you'll get 3 or 4 of them back after 4 months. And then that inquiry is going to fall off altogether at the 2-year mark. Okay? The other kind of inquiry is a soft pull. That's what happens when you check your own credit. You log onto a credit monitoring site, right? Something like that. No association with that. That's not going to hurt your score. No points are dinged for doing a soft pull. Okay? Here's where we run into a lot of the misconceptions. You'll have a client, and I'm going to give you guys an objection handle here. A lot of times clients are like, no, I'm not ready to talk with the lender because I don't want him to do an inquiry because I don't want my credit score to go down. You ever run into that? A couple times? Yes. Here's why. Here's what happens. You're like, I went to buy a car and I applied for the loan and my credit score went down 60 points. You've ever heard of that? What happened there? Because we know that a hard inquiry is only worth 2 to 5, right? Why'd it go down 60 points? Well, number one, maybe it didn't. Maybe it's because the algorithm is different, right? They're calculating the score different. There's that. There's also, sometimes it does. Here's why. Because when you're sitting on ice, right? Think about buying a car. You go, you do the test drive, smell that new car smell. Oh, I like the horsepower. I like this car. I want it, right? And so you're sitting there back at the dealership. You're in the office. You're talking to your sales guy and you're haggling, and you're like, man, I need my payments to be this. I can't go over this amount per month. And he always comes back and it's $50 more. And you guys are trying to reach a deal. And he's like, okay, let me go talk to my finance manager and I'll come right back. And he leaves you sitting on ice, right? Here's what's going on. While he's back there talking to his finance manager, they're running your credit with 15 different banks because they're shopping around for the best interest rate. So that way, sales guy can come back, give you the payments that you want, and he can get a deal. That's what's going on. Here's the thing. Most algorithms have what's called a shopping window built into them. So in other words, the way that works for auto loans, mortgages, and student loans. Not credit cards, okay? Auto loans, mortgages, student loans. For those 3 types, it allows the consumer to shop around for the best rate. So they can apply for as many loans as they want. They can have their credit pulled 10 times. Doesn't matter because the algorithm is going to crunch those all together and only ding their score for one of them. The time frame on that, guys, to play it safe is 2 weeks. Sometimes as much as 45 days. I just don't like to bet on that. 2 weeks. I like sure things. Okay? 2 weeks. Shop around, get the best deal. Here's where we run into problems. It's a computer that reads this. You got a live person putting in the inquiry, and you got one person who puts it in as an auto. One person puts it in as a miscellaneous. 5 people put it in as a finance. 2 of them don't say what kind of inquiry it was. Now it looks like you're shopping around in different industries, and it's going to ding your score for each one of those. Well, man, if they ran it 15 times, 2 to 5 points each, that's how clients score can go down 60 points by applying for the car loan once. Here's the thing. Technically, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, each one of those hard inquiries has to have a signed authorization page going with it. So a lot of times, those other 14 weren't authorized. There's a shot we can get them taken off the credit report. Or if they were, sometimes they'll use that same authorization page. Copy, 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 copy. Now they're all authorized, right? Well, let's make sure they're all classified the same way. It's an auto loan. Let's make sure they're all classified as auto. So in this case, we wouldn't try to get it removed from the credit report. We try to correct the errors. That way, take advantage of the shopping window and recover some of those points. Okay? That's the secret of credit repair, right? Get corrections, get errors, mistakes, all that stuff cleaned off the report. You got to know the system. Okay? If you have any questions on inquiries, please email me. Okay? But we see quite a bit of them. Is there anything I'm missing in new credit? I don't think so. Okay. Moving on. Last little bit, types of credit. This is easy, super easy. 4 different types of accounts you can have. You can have a mortgage, auto, revolving, and an open account. 4 different kinds. The way that you get this 10% is to show a variety of accounts. Okay, so if you have an auto loan, cool. That's good. If you have an auto loan and a credit card, you're going to have more. Okay, because obviously you have a credit card, but now you get 10 more percent. If you have an auto loan, credit card, and a mortgage, even better. You're going to get a bump to your score. What's an open account? Any guesses? Open account? Collections. Collections an open account, but we don't want those on a credit report, right? The only kind of positive open account that you can really get these days is an American Express card. Technically, American Express is not a revolving credit card because Amex, when you first get it, doesn't give you a limit. This is how they wrote people in. They're fishing, man, like everyone else. This is how they catch people. You don't have a limit. And so what happens, you get someone goes out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have a limit, right? That's awesome. But here's the catch. You have to pay the balance off every month to keep it an open account. So if that client goes out and racks up a $10,000 limit and they can't cover that, now it's going to toggle to a revolving account. They're going to have a monstrous interest rate on that and no longer have an open account. So Amex is a great deal as long as you continue to manage it properly. A lot of benefits to it, a lot of perks, a lot of rewards, a lot, good for business owners, but don't play their game, play your game, right? Pay it off every month and don't use more than you can handle on it. That's an Amex, okay? Types of credit, that's it, guys. That's it on types of credit. All this is going to group together and give you your credit score. Now, let's talk about, what time is it? I'm going to see if I can free you guys up 5 minutes. We're going to skip that one. It's a recap. Okay? Negative items. Okay, let's get one thing straight. Most Americans have some wrong information on their credit report. We talked about name misspellings, or if you got a common last name, how accounts can get added onto your credit report. Don't even get me started on, if your dad's name, my dad's name was David. My name is David. I had all his stuff on my credit report, right? If you live in a densely populated zip code, you're probably gonna have problems. And then we got to compound the fact that names, addresses, phone numbers, all that personal information, that'll never fall off your credit report. See, collections and charge-offs and all that stuff, that'll fall off after 7 years. Bankruptcy will fall off naturally at 10 years. Here's a question though. When does that clock start ticking? How do we know when it's been 7 years, right? Well, technically, on a collection, it's supposed to start from the date it was added onto the report. But hey, we see it all the time. Collection agency, it gets switched from hand to hand to hand. They're selling it on down the line, and that date, a lot of times, is going to get manipulated, and now it's on for 9 years. Now it's 10 years old, right? Happens all the time. That's a mistake. That's an error. 70% of Americans have identity fraud issues where, let's say they lived in an apartment complex. We had a guy. I'll tell you a quick story. We had a guy. His last name was Ellis, common last name. Mr. Ellis lived here in Colorado. his street address, let's call it 1234 Main Street. I don't remember what it was, but let's say that's what it was. 1234 Main Street just so happens that there's the same street address that exists in Louisiana. Well, my guy never lived in Louisiana. So what happened is that back in 2005, these guys got their credit reports cross-wired because the Ellis that lived in Louisiana had all sorts of financial problems. And so my guy ended up with like 20 collections added onto his credit report as a result of that. Okay? That's how that can happen. So it's so bad that the federal government had to step in and pass the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That states all information on the credit report can be audited. And the burden of proof is on the creditor. They got to have a clean file. They have 30 days to prove that the information they're reporting is 100% complete, accurate, and verifiable. If they can't provide that documentation in 30 days, they legally have to take that item off the credit report. Okay? So there you have it, 30-day time period. A lot of times they get buried in paperwork and they don't answer. They don't do it in 30 days. Gets removed. A lot of times, you know, they don't have the information anymore. A lot of times, if it's I'm the third collection agency that's bought this thing, all I have at this point is a name, a dollar amount, and a phone number. I don't have the social. I don't have the name of the insurance company. You know, I don't have any of the stuff that you're going to ask for. So they take it off the credit report. Okay. That's how derogatory items, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a bankruptcy or not. If any piece of that information is missing, gets removed. The other thing too is a lot of times, guys, you know, they'll remove it. But you have to. This is where the coaching comes into play. The client has to be a smooth talker, or they have to have us on the line as a three-way conference call, you know, speaking on their behalf, because collection agencies don't like to remove things from credit reports. Credit bureaus tell them not to do it. They'll tell people straight up, it's illegal for us to do this. It's not. It's not. They'll remove it. Okay? They just need to have something going for them, a pay for delete or whatever. If a client is going to try to get something removed from the credit report after they already paid, that creditor is not going to do them any favors. It's a lot harder, you know? So my point is that anything can be removed off by using the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay? Moving on. You got clients out there, you want to see about what they can do to make sure their credit scores are healthy. I've got 4 tips. And this is especially true of anybody who's got a common last name or is otherwise a high risk for identity fraud. Okay, number 1, go to annualcreditreport.com. It is a free public website, and download copies of your credit report at least once a year. Annualcreditreport.com only lets you do it every 12 months. Okay, but other credit monitoring services, you can do it all the time. Okay, when in doubt, check out our website. We do have some credit monitoring options there. Okay. What they're going to want to do, step 2, review it very closely. Any mistakes, any digits that are off in the phone number, any addresses that they're like, no, I lived at this apartment complex, but I was unit C, not unit D. That needs to be removed off the credit report, okay? Look for inquiries that they don't recognize. I never applied for this car. I never applied for this, you know, whatever it is, okay? Step 3, they need to formally investigate those items. Here's the thing. They don't want to do it electronically. If you do an electronic dispute, then what you're doing is you're giving up your right to do a reinvestigation on that item. And the credit bureaus know that. You got to wait 6 months before you can approach it again. Well, we got to keep in mind, guys, the credit bureaus got a lot going on. They got a lot on their plate. They're called credit bureaus. It's a bureaucracy, okay? So sometimes they'll verify an item that is straight up not verifiable, and we see that on the credit report. I've had collections with the word unknown in the name. The name is unknown, and they come back verified. That's ridiculous. So they would need to be reinvestigated, okay? And that's step, oh, that's not on here. Reinvestigated. If somebody does it electronically, they don't have the right to do that. So they have to send written letters, write it out, send all the evidence, right? Or hire a credit repair company, okay, for them to do it. Step 4, in tandem with investigating and removing errors, they need to take all the stuff that you guys learned here today and inflate as much positive credit as possible. That is the formula. Go after the negative, cut those anchors off your hot air balloon, and make sure you got plenty of hot air in it. And doing that, you can really get somebody's score to go up 20, 30 points a month. I've seen crazy stuff. I've seen 100 points a month. Just depends on what's going on with their unique situation there. Okay. But there you have it. That's the steps to inflating credit score as quickly as possible. I'm going to open it up for some questions here. I'm sure I created quite a few out of all that. Give me 1 second. Everybody's unmuted. What questions can I answer in the remaining 7 minutes that we have?
David, is it true that if I dispute something on my credit report, that during the dispute period, it's automatically removed?
Really good question. Okay, so here's how that works. This is why lenders don't like to have disputes on credit reports. A lot of times they can't close the loan if there's disputes. Here's why. And it confuses clients because the client will be like, yeah, I disputed it on Credit Karma. It got removed. Maybe, maybe not. What will happen is that when it's in dispute, a lot of times the creditor will temporarily remove it from the scoring algorithm while they investigate that account. So sometimes it's not supposed to, but sometimes it can falsely bump up the score, and then the client's like, woohoo, worked out. Problem is, if they verify the item, they'll add it back in, score's gonna go right back down. So this is why when we're working on somebody that's going to do a home loan, we got to make sure all disputes are removed off that credit report to make sure that the score is actually what it's supposed to be before closing. Question. What else? I know you guys have some questions out there. Don't be afraid. This is where if we were in person, I'd be throwing out little Snickers bars, right? Like, hey, oh, there you go, participation.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I have had clients use alternative credit reporting. I don't know necessarily that it, because this was a long time ago, so they'd get like their insurance bill and Excel Energy, and they would have those be sent to the credit bureaus and then they would get added. Is that still a manual process that can happen, or is the Equifax thing or Experian thing taken?
Yeah, not so
over
much.
for that?
Not, you know, so here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. We've been talking about the big three, right? Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. We got to keep in mind there's a ton of other bureaus out there. So specifically like renters or a bank. A lot of times banks like, we're going to check your credit. They're not actually checking the big three. They're checking check system because they want to see if there's ever been any bounce checks to any other banks. That's with that bureau, right? So insurance particularly, they've got their own credit system that they use that has absolutely nothing to do with FICO or credit scores or any of the bureaus that we talked about today. The only way to get a utility added to the big three is Experian Boost. To my knowledge, unless there's something that's like brand spanking new that I haven't heard about yet.
Yeah, this was a long time ago. It was something where we gathered a credit history report, or basically a history payment report, and then submitted that to the bureaus because the borrower that I had did not have any credit, which obviously means it's bad credit.
Well,
it was years ago though, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's not something, I mean, that is going to help a client today. Now, there is sometimes where a lender might be willing to, because the lender, they've got their own money, right? They don't have to go on credit, guys. You can have a lender that's like, oh, I'll go with a 480 credit score because they're looking at other stuff. It's their money to give out. They can make what. So sometimes you'll have an alternative lender that's not a Freddie or Fannie, lender, and they got their own set of criteria. Yeah, I'll do it if your grandpa and all your kids co-sign with you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll do it if you put your tractor up as collateral. You know what I mean? Like, there's different stuff like that. But for what we're talking about with traditional, conventional, Freddie, Fannie, insured loans, FDIC insured, no.
Yeah, this was an FHA loan. I'm curious to see
interesting.
what they did.
Interesting. Yeah. Not to my knowledge. Experian Boost, though.
Okay.
Good. Other questions? Okay, guys, if you have questions for me, if you believe you've got a client that would be a good fit, right? If somebody needs some guidance, let me know. Our best referral partner is a real estate agent. And the reason being is because he tees it up. He builds a pipeline. We work with that client for up to a year, okay, as our average coaching membership. And what we'll do is keep you in the loop. We keep that person motivated, right? And ultimately, everything is transparent. They see what's going on with their credit. And, you know, what we'd like to do is be able to let you know, okay, hey, time to shake the money tree here. You know, somebody about ready to graduate the program. We've been checking their credit on credit monitoring. They've been sending calls, and sounds like they're motivated to start looking for a house. Whole thing is that they have to know what to expect. Okay, so if you do have somebody like that, feel free to email me. I'll let you know more details. Okay, other than that, if you found this class beneficial, I know it's virtual, okay, but if it was at all, you know, worthwhile for you, I'd love to get a Google review for you. Go ahead and hop online, Google Credit Advisor, and leave some feedback, even if it's a 5-star, you know, review on our profile. I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to learn about the interesting world of credit. Time well spent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for coming today, participating. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, guys.